I guess it's open to any questions from the floor here in Launceston. I'll just bring the, because technology can take us here, I might as well bring the mic so you don't have to repeat.
Sorry. Just a couple of questions in relation to the research that you brought up with the chest infections. With the very early mobilisation, what sort of things constituted mobilisation? Like in somebody with a dense hemi was purely sitting out of bed, mobilisation is the first one. And the second one in the art talks about passive turning where you got the family involved. Was there a set frequency to that?
I'll run this back up the front.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you knew you did a big run yesterday. I'm surprised at how you can skip onto the stage there. Early mobilisation was really trying to get an increased number of particularly standing events as early as possible. But I know in our small pilot study at Glasgow, some of the more severely impaired people, we actually, in those first sort of 24, 36 hours, we were actually probably only getting them up sitting, but definitely getting them up sitting out of bed. That was the if you like, the minimum target. But if we could do it, we would be getting them standing and transferring walking as quickly as possible. The reason I said I'm not sure I can believe it is because we, across the AVERT pilot study and our own one, we only speeded up mobilisation by, a day or so. We probably had more mobilisation events in the first week, but it wasn't a huge difference. But it is consistent with some other work done in Scandinavia where they have policy of very aggressive mobilisation and their frequency of complications seems to be lower. So it does all hold together as a concept. The other study, the Mexican one, they did have a protocol to follow, but I'm afraid I can't remember the details now that I say that, but it was very much tailored to supervising family to do it. So it was very basic, and it actually didn't involve particularly mobilization. It was more passive movement and positioning. So it was at a lower level of activity than I'm sure currently. But what they did do was compare it with, if you like, the normal care in their setting, and it was surprisingly effective. And certainly, I mean, on that note, if you go to places, if you look at case fatality in acute stroke in countries where effectively there's no rehab input at all, case fatality in hospital is often 40 or 50%, whereas we would expect it to be, under 10, and it's probably a part of that is the, just the dangers of bed rest. Yeah.
Any further questions from here?
Thank you.
So another question from the floor in Launceston. I've just our colleagues across the state can provide.
How early can we start prone positioning? With my work, I think prone positioning is one particular positioning I find very beneficial to stop complications like the chest complications and the other certain related complications. So when can we start prone positioning?
Prone position.
Relying on his stomach.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say prone?
I say that happening a lot.
Okay, yeah. I mean, my belief is you can start, for most patients, stroke patients, you can start mobilizing them in whatever way, really, on the day of admission. There are one or two exceptions to that. If somebody's blood pressure is very unstable, and so that when you're sitting them up, the blood pressure's dropping, if their conscious level's very unstable, you maybe have to hold back a bit. But the great majority of people seem to tolerate mobilisation early, whether it be, you know, whatever approach you're using. And having said that, I'm aware it's controversial. Some countries, they don't mobilise people with cerebral hemorrhage early, but work from Scandinavia suggests that, if anything, the benefit of stroke units is even greater for cerebral hemorrhage people, and a key factor of that is avoiding bed rest, mobilising. So I think any sort of mobilisation, whatever position you take, I think can start really within the first 24 hours probably.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions from any other sites?
It's Trudy again from Devonport. You probably can't answer this question, but we don't have a stroke unit on the northwest coast, unfortunately, but we have a lot of stroke patients. Do you have any suggestions for or ideas for funding or for any future developments? Good contacts, anything that would be of help?
You want to find a good philanthropist.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know one?
What about this lady who runs Kathmandu? Would she know? I think, obviously I can only sort of speak in general principles. I think what worked in Scotland was a combination of things, which was firstly setting, getting statements made that it was a priority as a, you know, across the state, and getting structures in place like the networks, which were interested in developing, you know, such services. But after that, I've got to say that most developments seem to happen with a local champion who just kept going, just kept banging on. And in our own case, we didn't get funding for a stroke unit. Some funding came through to open more medical beds, and people said, well, why are we funding more medical beds when we don't have a stroke unit? We'll just free up more medical beds by allocating this small additional resource to making a stroke unit happen. So I think it's about banging on about the message and being ready for an opportunity when it comes along. And so I think it happens at several levels, but I don't really understand Tassie politics, so beyond that I don't even understand why all the men have got moustaches. So it'd be difficult to make a specific comment, but I think that those are the general principles I would think about.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the things that's well acknowledged in the state is that Bernie actually, I guess, set up the first coordinated stroke care in the state. Before Launceston and Hobart set up their stroke units, Bernie was arranging it to bring people all to the same medical ward, and that's still known and not forgotten.
Just coming back to that, you've maybe fallen into the same trap that happened to us, is that the hospital I moved to 16 years ago had a mobile stroke team that provided a good coordinating service to stroke patients wherever they were, and that hadn't really sorted stroke care, but for a long time it was thought that box had been ticked, and it took a long time to persuade people they really needed their own space. And you do, it transforms care when you've got the team in one place. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'd certainly like to thank Peter from all our team members across the state. We do have another instalment tomorrow Please note that it is at 11:30 tomorrow. The venues are mostly the same across the state. The Launceston is in a different venue. It's in the main telehealth studio, but we certainly invite everyone again tomorrow at 11:30 and look forward to hearing more of Peter's information and knowledge. Thank you very much, everyone.